So they say President Donald Trump is unhinged. You want to know what's really unhinged? What's actually unhinged is standing in front of your private residence with the vice presidential seal in front of you, giving your first and only press conference since becoming the undemocrat presidential candidate, the nominee, by the way, and calling your opponent Hitler.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best.
Now that was unhinged, and by the way, disgusting, downright revolting, and I'll add weird. That is just weird. Imagine what it sounds like to Jews having the number 2 in the free world standing there comparing her political opponent to Adolf Hitler just because she disagrees with him and is losing to him in the election. I didn't think there were new lows for these people, for Democrats, but Kamala Harris, there clearly are many to be had, as the political campaign is proving time and time again. The desperation, you can smell it in the air. In fact, I can feel it in the air tonight. Hat tip to Phil Collins. 2 days ago, Barack Obama asked how it got so toxic in America. And less than 48 hours later, the vice president, who's running for president, claimed that Donald Trump is literally Hitler and wouldn't hold back from using the military to kill Americans. Now that is peak toxicity, folks. Thank you very much, desperate Democrats. And so they want another assassination attempt, I take it? Seems like that's the plan. Time's ticking away. Her polling is sliding. Let's say shit that gets him killed. Out of the way. John Kelly suddenly came out 5 years later and just 2 weeks before the most important and polarizing election of our time, our lifetimes. And that's somehow the October surprise. John Kelly was and is unreliable, and that's putting it lightly. Kelly's a disgruntled former employee of Trump going postal. He was fired by Trump, so, tail between the legs, embarrassed. After all, John Kelly was built up as some sensible, bringing gravitas and sensibility to Trump's White House as a chief of staff. Well, you want some facts? I'll lay some facts on you. Let's just put the facts out there first. Something Democrats have recently shown utter disdain for. The media called for John Kelly's resignation before Trump fired him in 2018. Remember that? Allow me to elaborate. Quoting, pressure on White House Chief of Staff John Kelly was intensifying on Saturday after a series of missteps, most notably his defense of a senior official accused of domestic violence. Shall we go on? Okay, then. Quote, ominously, Donald Trump has been grumbling about Kelly's performance and weighing up possible replacements. I think we can see what's really happening here right now in 2024, but I'll let General Kellogg, who was there for a lot of that time, I'll let him tell you exactly what's going down. I'm quoting, Vice President Harris is a fraud. I was in the White House at a senior level much longer than General Kelly. General Kelly, he is complicit in this fraud and has lied to the American people. His lies, as well as John Bolton's, are a disservice to the nation at this critical time. So are the VPs. Now, if you want to talk about disgruntled former employees, the reports coming out of Kamala Harris's office are such as this. Her office, and I'm talking specifically about Vice President Kamala Harris's office, has had very, very, very high, insanely high, in fact, turnover rates. They really want to talk about this in the mainstream media, but that's why I'm bringing it here to bring truth to light. In fact, over 90%, folks, 90% of Kamala's office left in the first 3 years. 90 freaking percent. Now, in business, where I come from, you'd have to do an investigation as to why the turnover rate was so high. Certainly some toxic environmental shit going on there. And why? Well, toxic work culture, obviously. One report even saying, get this, that Kamala Harris demanded her whole staff stand at attention and say, "Good morning, General," to greet her. General! Now, how freaking degrading is that? Just so I'm clear, which general are we talking about, Cammie? Mao? General Khan? General Castro? Maybe General Cho's chicken, more like it, but which is it? Because I'm thinking that Kamala Khan or Kamala Castro, they both have a really nice little ring to them. I mean, I'm just reporting that one of Kamala Harris's disgruntled former staffers, what she said about her, Kamala, after she was mean to them and fired them, presumably for messing up or being bad on the job. And so we automatically believe every word they say? Totally credible, right? General? Well, now apply that same logic to a real general, General Kelly. See what I'm getting at? But Kamala blamed any criticism that came out against her from such former employees on, you guessed it, racism. Way to remind everyone why you, Kamala, were hired. Way to go, Madam VP. You're the worst DEI hire in American history. Make sure everyone remembers that your hire was based solely on identity and not on your actual skills or talent or expertise, because any criticism of Kamala Harris is either racist or misogynist after all, right? Nothing at all to do with the fact that she can't answer a simple question about actual policy, about the economy, about the border, or her many flip-flops on all the important issues. And while we're here just believing people and taking what they say as face value, there's some claims against your husband, Kamala. I don't know, should we talk about those? He slapped his girlfriend so hard her head spun around. He impregnated your nanny, his nanny. Comparing President Trump to Hitler, that's not new. We've all heard it. And for Trump voters, it's not moving the needle. To us, to them, it's simply not true, especially since he already had 4 years to prove otherwise, and he did. Not to mention his relationship with Israel, the Jewish community, the fact that his son-in-law and his own daughter and grandchildren are Jewish, the fact that he's always concerned himself with anti-Semitism in America and the safety of Jewish Americans. I mean, Trump, as president, went to pray at the Wailing Wall in Israel. What Hitler wannabe would do that? None. Zero. Zilcho. But this is less than 2 weeks till Election Day now. This is a losing game at this point for the Lady General. So why not go down in flames? The Democrat Party has also done nothing since October 7th to criticize those within her very own party, congressional members who condone the acts of Hamas terrorists. Anything to say about that, Herr General? No. She would rather put out terrifying language and rhetoric and put the 45th president's life in danger yet again. Is that about right, Dems? This is not at all a new tack for the Democrat Party. I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan was called Hitler. George Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, Nikki Haley, Dick Cheney, Paul Ryan, Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and more than half of this country were equated to Hitler Youth just for voting for Trump. Kamala Harris has been the candidate for more than 90 days. This is the only time she came out to make a statement to the press or a press conference whatsoever. Now, if you're struggling, you're American, Don't worry. Madam General wants you to know that Hitler is Trump. Trump is Hitler, and he's putting everyone in prison and killing them if they don't agree with him. This is the party of unity and joy? Yeah, Obama, talk to your lady general. It's hard to see through the cloud of toxic fog right now. But you want to talk about unhinged? Unhinged is the level of illegal migrants coming up by 401% in Georgia since 2021, 446% in North Carolina since the same time, 241% in Pennsylvania, 734% in Arizona, 562% in Nevada, 775% in Michigan, 467% in Wisconsin, all since 2021. Now that is an actual emergency. What's up, border czar? Any press conferences about that, Madam General? And let me say this. There's a distinct difference right now between the left and the right. Take notice. Bear witness. When there are unsourced and libelous stories coming out on the right, they say, on the fringe, they say they're obscure. They're not rolling out to the main audience of America. The difference on the left is that these stories are happily dispensed by mainstream media outlets like The Atlantic, like MSNBC and CBS News. Think about that. That's our country's media. Those people are the ones who are supposed to defend democracy and tell the truth, hold truth to power. What's this come down to? Today was not only an embarrassing day for Kamala Harris and those who surround her, they're supposed to guide her and lead her in this campaign. It's astonishing enough. It's also an embarrassing day for the country. Our media tripped over themselves following state orders, placing the final nail in the coffin of journalism, all in the name of keeping power and control over Americans out of the hands of Trump and putting him with Kamala Harris. How vile, how transparent, and how completely unforgettable. The American people cannot and will not forget this moment. I'm here to assist in that never forgetting. All right, it's over. That's what they're saying on both sides now. While I think that's certainly true in some respects, as someone who used to play professional baseball, I can tell you this. It's never over until the final out is in the books and the fat lady is singing. She ain't singing yet, folks. Kamala Harris has officially lost CNN, which is a loyal army of hers and the leftist machine. Listen.
Well, I'll just tell you what I'm hearing from people who I have been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. And, you know, some people have asked, is she being held to a different standard? Maybe. But that's maybe the world that she's living in. And on the question of who she is, people are understanding that a little bit more. But what she will do, the question about her legislative priorities, name one, there wasn't one. You know, some more of her personality and her sort of character questions about your weaknesses or what mistakes did you make? Not necessarily the answers there.
Did not close the deal, says Dana Bash, sitting with Jake Tapper. And from the highlights, or lowlights in this case, they're about to watch together. I think we can all agree with Dana Bash. Words I never thought I would say, by the way, but let's not get complacent. Let's not take anything for granted, even when we see moments like this from last night.
Considering you have been in the position of vice president for the past 4 years under the Biden administration, how can we expect you to deviate from the direction of that administration compared to your own? How can we differentiate your policy and your beliefs from that of Biden's?
That's a great question, and thank you. Well, first of all, my administration will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to this role my own ideas and my own experience. I represent a new generation of leadership on a number of issues and believe that we have to actually take new approaches. For example, what we talked about in terms of housing. My experience that leads to that priority includes what I did to take on the big banks around the foreclosure crisis when I brought billions of dollars to homeowners that were the subject of predatory lending. I know what homeownership means to the American people, not to mention what it meant to my mother, who worked very hard and saved up so that by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I bring to it my experience actually taking care of my mother when she was sick, and it was, as it turned out, dying from cancer. And so I know what it means and have the experience of taking care of an elderly relative, and I have raised children. And so I bring to my priorities and will, as president, a new approach and a new idea, frankly, about what we need to do to deal with the sandwich generation.
So the question was, how are you going to be different and distinguish yourself from a Biden presidency? And she talks about taking care of her sick mother. Still not answering that one. There's a new answer in the mix now to distract Americans. A sympathy push, I guess. An add-on from just my mom bought a home and we had a lawn to my mom died of cancer and I took care of her. And also I parented children. That's her answer to how she differentiates from Joe Biden. Thing is, it's actually not that much different at this point since Biden's own son died of cancer and he's parented children too. And also, all of that has nothing at all to do with policy or the last 4 years of disastrous governing on her part. But let's go on. I'm a little shocked that Anderson Cooper called Kamala Harris out. I mean, that just shows how indefensible this woman is and her campaign is. And the candidate has become indefensible. Anderson actually came out and asked Kamala's dreaded question, why on earth did it take you so long to try and put out the dumpster fire that is this illegal migrant crisis?
2022, 2023, there were record border crossings. Your administration took hundreds of executive actions. It didn't stem the flow. Numbers kept going up. Finally, in 2024, just in June, 3 weeks before the first presidential debate with Joe Biden, you institute executive actions that had a dramatic impact, really shut down people crossing over. Why didn't your administration do that in 2022, 2023?
First of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we have cut the flow of immigration by over half. In fact, the numbers I saw most recently, illegal immigration.
But if
is
it was
low.
that easy with that executive action, why not do it in 2022, 2023?
Because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix.
You couldn't have done one and both at the same time?
Well, here's the thing. We have to understand that ultimately this problem is going to be fixed through congressional action.
Yeah, see that? Everyone's fault but her own. Why didn't you close the border 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier? Well, we were waiting for a long-term solution. We were waiting, and then she should just stop talking. And that's all Americans needed to hear, nothing more beyond those words. Another moment when it was clear that Anderson Cooper, by the way, folks, let me take a second here. Did you notice what's happening here? We talked yesterday about the NBC reporter who held her feet to the fire. Now we have CNN, Dana Bash, Anderson Cooper. Now, see what's happening? They did this when they realized Biden was done, when he was toast. They started to distance themselves from them because they didn't want down the road to be accused of giving them a pathway to a presidency that was awful. So they're pushing back on her with 11 days, 12 days left until the election. Really, really interesting how the left works. Anderson Cooper was done with her BS when he asked Kamala Harris about the border wall, which she thinks is hilarious, just like everything else. It's just so funny.
Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. Right. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president who is grounded in common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix this thing. Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on it? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur,
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything.
A couple of things there. First of all, Cooper, good for him. He caught her because let's just fix it. You had 4 years to fix it. You were the border czar. You had 4 years to do something about it. You did nothing, and he called her on it at the end. I love it. You want to talk about photo ops at the border walls? Really? Anderson wasn't having any of that awkward, uncalled laughter, too. Just like Americans are done with it, too. Hold on a second right there. Did you see what she did? She started with, let's talk about Donald Trump. No, it was a town hall. No one laughed with her. You get that? No one laughed with her. And then she does this thing a lot where she goes like this, like she did with Brett Baer. She goes, Brett, I know you know what I'm talking about. It's like, actually, I don't. She's so used to people sucking up to her when she goes like this, and everyone goes, ha ha, like the lefties do. That's what she's not getting anymore. She says, let's just fix it. Fix the problem, but still no one freaking actual policy to do it. Didn't utter a word. How? President Trump didn't do much of anything seriously, border czar. The only thing she did was tell millions upon millions of migrants, don't come, which was essentially her saying, come on right in, we're not going to stop you. There's a debit card, a hotel room, a home loan waiting for you in exchange for your eventual vote. But then again, she refuses to answer the questions, which might explain Anderson Cooper's frustration here.
Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years, you were vice president, not the president, but why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done.
There was a lot to be done, but there's more to do, and things were going to be done. Oh, what is that crap? I mean, word salad, that's not even words. It's just a joke. It's obfuscation. Why is she even on that stage, folks? I don't know. Don't take my word for it. Here's Democrat David Axelrod. Remember him? He brought Obama to the presidency, emphasizing what we keep saying here.
He doesn't want to answer a question. Her habit is to kind of go to word salad city, and she did that on a couple of answers. One was on Israel. Anderson asked a direct question, would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And there was a 7-minute answer, but none of it related to the question he was asking.
Word salad, and cringe. Zero substance. That's the Harris-Walz 2024 campaign defined. All right, a little truth. Should we add a little truth bomb to the show today? Take a listen.
Grocery prices have gone up quite a bit in the last 4 years. Yeah. And some people blame former President Trump. Some people blame President Biden. Who would you say is correct? And what would you do to bring prices down for Americans?
Thank you, Eric. And you're absolutely right. You know it. I know it. I think most Americans know it. Price of groceries is still too high. And we need to address it in a number of ways. One of my aspects of doing what we need to do to bring down the cost of living for working people and the middle class in America is to address the issue of grocery prices. Part of my background and how I come to it is probably a new approach grounded in a lot of my experiences as a former attorney general, where I took on price gouging. And part of my plan is to create a new approach that is the first time that we will have a national ban on price gouging.
Okay, so I love this because I come from the investment world. I was in Wall Street for 15 years. I love this. She has 0.0. When it comes to the economy, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to numbers, she's got an airball up here. It's a complete airball. So Eric asked the question, what are you going to do to combat high prices? And she said, prices are too high. Where's your policy, Kamala? What policy are you going to do? Because I will tell you what Trump will say. Trump will say we're going to drill, we're going to bring the price of gasoline and fuel down. When the price of fuel goes down, the price of everything comes down. It's pretty well known on Wall Street that when gas prices are low, the price of goods are low. They go down. When gas prices rise, everything goes up. There's petroleum in just about every product we use, all the way down to toilet paper, believe it or not. But also growing food, agriculture. If you grow avocados in California and eat them in New York, they got to be trucked. They have to be transported. When the fuel price goes up, the price of that avocado at its end use will go up. Everything, cereal, everything goes up with the price of fuel and down. She can't say it. She can't say they're going to drill more because that's a Republican policy. She can't flip off AOC and Bernie Sanders and the Green Initiative people because those are her donors. She can't say what it takes to bring prices down. She won't do it. She doesn't even know how to do it. And she certainly can't do it because she doesn't want to piss off her donors. She has no answers. What's her answer? I'm going to take on price gouging. So you're going to go after the manufacturer, right? You're going to say, hey, cereal manufacturer, toilet paper manufacturer, hey, agricultural, hey, farmer, hey, grower. You're going to take them on for price gouging when the real issue is the high price input costs of the fuel and the input cost of feedstocks to produce these things? You're out of your freaking mind. You know what you're going to do? What are you going to punish them? You're going to fine people? You're going to fine the potato chip manufacturer because there are fewer potato chips in the box? You're just going to drive the price up even higher. Full clown truth bomb. This woman is lost in the woods. I just realized here on this show right now, I just realized at this very second, she will not be the next president. There's no way in this world that someone that stupid, that dumb, that out of touch, that unqualified will be the president of these United States. It only happened once before, and George Bush, God love him, ain't going to happen again. Truth bomb. All right, so there's a guy who used to be on, he was actually a decent sports reporter, Keith Olbermann. I used to like him on ESPN years and years ago, and then he decided he wanted to do politics. He went to MSNBC. He sucks at politics. I mean, Olbermann, he's horrible. And then they fired him, and he's just out there trying to stay relevant. Well, I think he's losing his mind, folks. I think he's really losing his mind. Look at this series of tweets he put up. I can't even read them out loud. You're useless and spineless whore, sell the paper, leave the country. I'm not even sure who he's talking to. A convincing argument, I says so it's true, F off, moron. He uses the whole word. Put your body part back in your pants and get out of our country, you anti-American psychopath. Keith Olbermann is having a meltdown in front of our very eyes. Olbermann, remember he used to do this thing called the worst person in the world? And you have the second worst, first runner-up, and then the worst person in the world. Olbermann, you're losing your mind. You're losing it. Bye-bye, Keith. Turn the fucking Twitter off. Sorry. All right, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, folks. We're growing. We want you on board. It costs nothing. Just subscribe helps us out on YouTube, on Rumble, on Spotify, on Apple, everywhere. Just subscribe, and it'll come to your inbox, and it helps us out a lot. Also, the toll-free number, 888-601-0032, 888-601-0032. Tomorrow, I'm going to head over to Tallahassee. I'm driving up to Tallahassee right after the show. We're going to bring you some content, but also I'll take a little bit of video. I don't really want to make it an official visit, but I'm sitting down with Governor Ron DeSantis. I personally believe he's the shoe-in for 2028 presidential. I think he's going to be president come 2028, no matter what happens in this next election in 11 days. So we're going to sit down and talk to Governor DeSantis, always a good friend. Again, we do the show down here in Florida. He's been a great governor, probably the best governor in the history of governors, folks, as far as I'm concerned. So we'll bring some of that to you. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. Put some content up. Subscribe. Bolling out.